10 o'clock. It is time to start this court today. We do have a quorum, and with that, I'm going to call this session to order here. You ready, Christian and Pam? Everybody ready? And if you would, Mike Morris, would you please lead us in prayer and ask for some guidance today? Please stand.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this wonderful day that you've given us, and for the opportunity to gather together today for this meeting. Father, we ask that today you guide our commissioners in their decisions, give them wisdom, give them understanding, give them patience as they serve our community. I pray that you help them work together with respect and kindness, and may their efforts today bring peace and prosperity to our county. Father, we thank you for putting on the hearts of all our government officials to serve. We ask that you watch over us as we leave, keep us safe, and may our lives be a positive example to everyone. Father, just thank you for all these things. We ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. You're welcome to stay if you'd like. You can join us.
I'll like to stay for a little bit.
Okay. Hey, that's different. Matt, is that your turn? I don't know. Go ahead, if you would.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Item number 5 is public comments on agenda items. Do we have anybody sign up for anything?
Yes, but it's for number 19.
Okay, why don't we wait and save that for 19 then? Item number 6 is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes non-controversial and routine items that the court may act on with one single vote. The judge or a commissioner may pull any item from the consent agenda in order that the court discuss and act upon it individually as part of the regular agenda.
Make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Motion, Commissioner Snuggs, that we approve the consent agenda. I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Consent agenda passes 5-0. Item number 7, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the Treasurer's monthly report for May 2024. Our new treasurer, do you have anything for us today, or?
No, I do not.
Like to introduce once again our brand new treasurer, Anita Fangman. Welcome on board.
Motion to approve the treasurer's monthly report.
Commissioner Snuggs makes the motion to approve the treasurer's monthly report.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Arndt. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Item number 8 is presentation of the FY23 annual financial report by Patillo, Brown, and Hill, and possible acceptance of the report.
Good morning.
Go right ahead, please. Identify yourself if you would and take it away.
Yes, sir. I'm Kent Willis, partner at Patillo, Brown & Hill, based out of Waco. So I had an early morning this morning to get here to your meeting, but I appreciate you having me here to talk about the 2023 financial statement audit. I think you have in your agenda packet a copy of the annual financial report as well as the single audit report. I'll be going through those pretty briefly. I intend to keep this short and sweet because I have good news to provide today. But if you want to drill down into the details, if you have questions, please stop me. I'm happy to spend as much time as you'd like today. So I'm going to start off, if you want to follow along, let's head to page 14, if you want to follow along in the annual financial report, this one here. So before I get started, I do want to thank Shelley and her staff for all the hard work during the audit. The list of items that we request at the beginning of an audit, it's over 100 things, and it just seems to grow as we progress and ask questions and request more things. It's a lot of work. So we really appreciate the hard work from your staff to make sure that this audit was successful. So really appreciate Shelley and her team. But I'm here to present the results of the 2023 financial statement audit. And our goal during an audit as an auditor is to come in and be skeptical, right? We trust your county auditor, we trust your treasurer, but that's not enough for an auditor. We have to come in and make sure that we agree that the information provided to us is materially correct. So for example, if we're looking at actually turn back to page 12, kind of to explain how an audit, how we prepare and perform an audit every year. Look at the general fund balance sheet on page 12 at the top, cash and investments, $15.5 million. Well, when we start the audit, Shelley provides us some information to say that's how much we have in the bank. General fund has $15.5 million. Well, my job is not to just say, oh, okay, that must be right because you say so. We have to come in and perform procedures over basically every number you see in this document to make sure that they're accurate. And so for your cash and investments, for example, we actually asked the bank, hey, tell me, bank, how much did Cooke County have in the bank at 9/30/2023, right? So the bank has no reason to falsify that information. And we just go down the balance sheet, we go to the income statement. Every number you see, we've spent some number of hours on to make sure that it's accurate today in this report. So that takes about 4 weeks of dedicated time of our staff, your staff working together. And then there's always a couple of weeks of wrap-up work afterwards to make sure that we can present to you today accurate information in this document. And so we've been able to do that. We were able to issue an unmodified opinion this year, which is a clean opinion, and it's the highest level of assurance we can provide on a set of financial statements for a local government. So quite literally as good as it gets for a financial statement audit. So congratulations on a clean opinion. I'm sure you're glad to hear that. So while we're in this area on page 14, let's take a look at your fund balance in the general fund. I know it's a few months ago, but let's take a step back in time and see how Cooke County ended up at the end of 2023. So page 14, general fund column. I'm just going to walk down the page for a few minutes and talk about the financial performance of the general fund for fiscal 2023. So if we just kind of walk down the page, we can see total revenues of $23.4 million. Total of expenditures a little bit more than that, $24.5 million. So we had an operating loss, we would call that, of about $1 million for the year. A couple other miscellaneous items beneath that, which gave us a net change in fund balance, you'll see at the bottom of the page, of $1,189,918. So a slight reduction in fund balance for the year. And so the question we get as auditors all the time is, how much fund balance should we have? And that's a tightrope you have to walk as a local government. You have less and less control over your revenues these days with property tax reform. You can't just go raise your tax rate immediately overnight anymore. You have less control of your expenses these days with cost of living increases, inflation, everything just costs more. So having a solid reserve in the general fund, that's your rainy day fund, right? That's where if a tornado comes through and you've got to react, which is a recent occurrence for you guys, I know, you've got to have a cushion there for your county to react and spend the money when it becomes necessary. So the question is, how much should we have? We could talk for hours about that, and I know this is not the place for that. But let me put it into perspective how much you do have in comparison to your requirements. And I believe your minimum policy is 3 months. Is that 3 months of operating? So at the end of the year, you guys had $17.9 million in fund balance, and that's 8.7 months. So you're well over your bare minimum requirement. Personally, I'm not a bare minimum kind of guy when it comes to my rainy day fund. I'd like to have a little cushion there. So from a financial perspective, 8.7 months is a great place to be. I just presented a report to Chambers County down on the coast, and they had about 9 months in their reserves. So I've seen counties with a year. I've seen counties with a bare minimum of 3 months. But sitting at 8.7 months is a fantastic place to be financially at the end of the year. So Any comments or questions about that I could answer? All good? Okay, let's turn our attention to the second document. This is the single audit report. Take a look at page 6. All right, so page 6 of this document is a listing of federal dollars that were awarded to your county and the amounts that were spent during 2023. So you've got $1,532,000 of federal dollars that were provided to the county, and that's how much was spent during the year on various programs. You see the State Criminal Alien Assistance Program, Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, and a few other items on here. So our job as an auditor, when we come in to perform the audit, if the grand total of this page is over $750,000, which yours is and it has been for a few years now, it triggers a secondary audit. So we move out of the balance sheet, income statement realm, and we move into grants. And that's what these dollars are. As you all know, there are strings attached when the feds give you money. You don't get to go spend it on whatever you want. You've got to spend it on certain things. You've got to comply with certain rules. And our job is to select one or more of these programs, one of these grants, and do that. Did you follow the rules of the grant? So we tested the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, or ARPA, as everyone commonly calls it these days. And we've tested that now 2 or 3, this might be the 3rd year we've tested it for you guys. And so you guys have gotten into a routine, you understand how this thing works, and we have had no issues, no findings, and another clean opinion to report in this arena as well. So that's good news. I know there's a lot of eyeballs on this funding these days, so I'm happy to be able to report clean opinion in this arena and no findings. So like I said, quite literally as good as it gets for an audit of a county in Texas. Can I answer any questions, or can I drill down anything? I'm happy to. We can get into the debits and credits if you want to. I'd be happy to.
So good, I'm afraid to ask any questions.
Might uncover something.
Do you have to audit the state grants too?
We do, if the total exceeds the $750,000 as well. Yep. So I think it's been a few years since the state funding triggered that as well. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to make the comment that our auditor and staff do a remarkable job in keeping us on track all the time, and we appreciate them. And I know they appreciate the good return or the good report too, as well as we do. So,
Well, thanks.
thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time today. Appreciate it. Take care.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Say again.
Move to approve.
Move to approve Commissioner Hollowell.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Snuggs. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And there are none. Our audit passes 5-0. Item number 9, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the approval of the bid specifications for bid 2406 road aggregates and advertisement for same.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Hollowell moves to approve. Second, Commissioner Sicking. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And there are none. Item number 9 passes 5-0. Item number 10, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the approval of the bid specifications for bid 2407 road oil products and advertisement for same. Motion, Commissioner Sicking to approve.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Arndt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Item 10 passes 5-0. Item number 11, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the approval of the FEMA TDM public assistance terms and conditions for the DR 4781 May 2024 tornado and all associated documents.
Yes, sir. That, we were, of course, authorized public assistance as part of the tornado recovery, and this is the documents now to fill out and comply with that. And then there'll be the meeting we have on the, I believe it's the 17th coming up, where we'll go over all of this in detail. But the documents themselves have to be produced and provided ahead of time, and this will be your signature on those.
So you have a meeting on 17th, or you have?
We.
Won't be here. Conference.
Yeah, the 17th will be the FEMA public assistance meeting.
You going to?
I'll be out. I already told
Well,
I'll be there.
and that, is that a, whose meeting is that once again?
We are holding it with FEMA. They're sending their team down to kick off the public assistance. Everybody doesn't have to be there, especially if your precinct wasn't directly impacted. But they'll just go over the public assistance process and program how it works, and
Okay.
it shouldn't be anything we're not familiar with. It doesn't change anything we do. Just the formality of having the meeting and kicking it off in person.
Where is the meeting?
EMS
Oh,
training room.
okay,
Yeah, that
okay.
email went out to everybody.
Okay, and let's see, who will not be here for that?
I'm sending a representative.
Okay.
Out at the barn.
Here.
I won't.
I'll be there.
Well, we'll have 2, 3, if he counts as a,
Maybe send Jimmy up there from the
Yeah.
are we gonna be voting on it?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, this is
No.
just
It's just information on,
Gotcha.
again, the whole
Okay.
public assistance process
All right.
that we are all, I think, very familiar with. It's just the formality of having the meeting in person with them for them to check their boxes and meet their requirements they have to do.
Okay. What action do we need to take? Just get the word
On
out
the public assistance documents, accepting those terms and conditions that you'll be signing.
there? Okay.
I make a motion that we accept this document and allow the county judge to sign it.
Motion, Commissioner Snug, second Commissioner Arndt, to allow me to sign the May 2024 tornado FEMA TDM public assistance documents. Would that be accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And there are none. Item number 11 passes 5-0. Item number 12, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the emergency disaster declaration and all associated executive orders.
I think the question there is, do we leave the disaster declaration in place? And I would say for now, yes, we do. To date, FEMA has distributed about $3.2 million in the community that was affected. Red Cross, of course, I don't know the amount, but a significant amount by them. And then the VOAD is still working and engaged and dealing with those individual needs. There's over 200 active cases of people requesting assistance at this point.
Are we still getting donations?
Yes, sir.
Or not
I
we,
believe
but-
so. I
but-
believe they are, yes.
Okay.
And certainly still accepting donations.
Accepting donations, okay.
Absolutely. It's going to be a long process, with significant medical issues, housing issues, a lot of folks that didn't have enough insurance or didn't have any insurance, and so trying to help them get back to at least where they were before the tornado is the goal.
Our main problem is that still removal.
Yes, sir, debris,
Debris.
and the RFP is out there for the initial debris removal, and we should get those back on the 17th and hopefully have something to present on the court on the 22nd.
Okay.
Sharon, do you know if we've had any packets submitted yet? Have we had any bids submitted yet?
Then the action would be to just leave the emergency disaster declaration in place. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I'll make that motion.
I don't think we need
No
any action on it.
required, frankly.
Do what?
We don't-
No action.
No
No
action.
action, just, okay. No action on item number 12, motion, or the disaster declaration will stay in place. Item number 13, deliberate and consider possible action regarding a budget amendment for the sheriff's office to move unused salary money to the extra help and overtime line. We
Yeah.
have our sheriff here.
Excuse me, yeah, we do that every year, so we're just moving, like I said, unused salary money that's unused because of vacancies. So we're having to move some of that money over into the overtime line item. We wouldn't have as much overtime if we didn't have the vacancies. So it's just wherever you put the money, you're just transferring it from one place to another.
You say this is a usual thing then?
Sure, and I'm sure I'll be back before the end of the fiscal year to do it one more time, probably.
This is not an increase in the budget, though, it's just a transfer of funds between line items.
Salary transfers have to come before court.
I'm just hanging around for the next item, so that's all I have to say about 13, line item, or number 13.
I make a motion, we approve this budget amendment.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Snuggs moves to approve item number 13, second Commissioner Hollowell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Motion passes 5-0. Item number 14, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the request from maintenance for additional funds in the amount of $7,000 for paint at the jail and possible budget amendment for the same.
Okay, so, hey, first off, on the jail, I want to let you know that we did have our annual inspection from the Texas Jail Commission last week. It's kind of a surprise inspection. We got about 10 minutes notice. And the inspector showed up and went from top to bottom with a fine-tooth comb, and we passed with flying colors. So I commend our staff out there for doing an excellent job. And anyway, great inspection report. Secondly, in the month of June, we had our highest billing amount for inmate housing, and we billed for over $96,000 just in June. So we're still doing good there. Anyway, we've run out of paint money. Rick had allocated $10,000 in the maintenance budget and for the paint. We're painting the entire jail. We're probably 2/3 to 3/4 through, but we've used that amount. He says that he has the money in his maintenance, but it would be more than what he initially allotted. So we estimate, I really think we can do it for about $5,000 more, but we're moving, or asking that he be allowed to spend up to $7,000, so.
Using inmate labor to paint the jail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The jail had not been painted since it opened, so it's been a long time. About
We got some professional
18
help
years.
out there right now that won't always be there. We need to take advantage of that.
So like I said, he's got the money, it's just, he's didn't allot that much, so he may have to come back at some point and ask you for additional money if he runs out. But he currently has the amount. So I don't think you need a budget amendment at this time.
He just didn't want to go expend the funds without the court being aware, is my understanding.
Yeah.
So if he comes back later, we know that he spent that money and what he spent it on.
Yeah, so I don't know that you need to vote on anything. It was just to make you aware that,
It's a heads up.
Yeah.
yes.
Do I hear a motion?
Al said he don't need one.
Say again.
Said he don't need one.
Don't need one?
It's just a heads up in case
Okay.
Rick comes back asking for money at a later date.
All right. No action on item 14. Item number 15, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the replacement of the Cooke County Representative David Flushy on the North Texas Groundwater Conservation District Board of Directors. And David Flushy has retired from that board. We do have someone who is interested in that. Matt, are you still interested?
Yeah, I also have somebody else ask about it. Young man that asked about it, if he's willing to do it, that's fine.
Okay, it's up to you, or to, you want to
Do
submit him as a,
Yeah,
He's been pretty close to it over the years, him and his brother.
right. I think he'd be a good one.
well then, you want to make that motion then?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we appoint Leon Clement, Dave Lucy's replacement.
Motion, okay, motion to replace David Flushy on the board with Leon Clement. Do I hear, by Matt Sicking, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Snuggs. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There are none. You want to pass on the good news to, all right.
Thank you.
Item number 16, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the FY25 budget. We have two that we didn't hear from the first time around. Constable Precinct 1, if you'd like to tell us what you need.
Submitted my budget. I understand y'all had a couple of questions about a couple of items, reserve. Last spring, I requested the reserve, and I was asked why didn't I fire one. One of them resigned. He's been removed from the department list, so I would like to replace him. That's one of the reasons I've got the increase for the budget on the reserve status. And the ammo inflation, I don't know, I didn't ask for a whole lot more, but did ask for an increase of $200. I don't think it's out of line, but you know, obviously it's up to you guys. That's the biggest things I've got. I would like to add this guy on his reserve. He will be an access to the county, and $750 for 4 years service. I think that's pretty good investment in my opinion.
This is a replacement and not an addition.
I'm sorry?
And he would be a replacement, not an addition?
Correct.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, Constable?
That makes you have 2 or 3?
I'm sorry?
2 or 3 that makes you have,
Right now, I've got one.
you got 1, okay.
If y'all add him, it'll be 2. But this person will be able to actually work pretty much when I asked. The other 2 have had jobs, and I had to work around that. This one here doesn't have a job. He's retired, but he'll be able to come out pretty much when I ask.
You do work pretty closely with Chuck, right? You guys can fill in
I
for each
do.
other, and then a deputy can fill in for you if you had a
I
worst
work
case
real close
scenario.
with Chuck.
Yeah.
I don't have anything right now. We can just get it when we get the budget.
Yeah, we'll include that in the budget hearing then, or in our budget considerations then. Thank you. And that's all you're asking for is just,
That's the 2 main items I would like to address today.
Did you get the word on your radio, Mark?
I did put in for a radio for handheld. The old one Sometimes I get replies on it, sometimes I don't. It depends on where I'm at in the county.
But were you told that the JP is willing to purchase that out of his tech fund?
I'm sorry?
Were you told that the JP is willing to fund that out of his tech fund?
No, it was not.
That
And
decision
that's the
was,
reason I put it in my budget request, is to get it, see if you guys would approve it.
and the JP is going to approve it out of the tech fund instead of out of general fund money.
I don't know. I haven't talked to the JP.
We did. We talked to him,
Okay.
but you'll have to get with somebody and do the PO. And it'll be after the budget, after
Right.
October.
Two officers are gonna be Darla. Who are your two?
Darla is the one that's left right now. Joe Stout resigned.
He did resign.
He is gone, sir. If y'all need to see, I printed off the T-lead off the side if you wanted to see that he's gone, but he is gone.
Any other questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark.
All right. Y'all have a
Include
good
that
day.
in our budget considerations then.
All right, thank
you. Emergency management.
Good morning. Other than the kind of standard things that are in there that are that way every year, the additional or things that were higher or unusual was a new four-gas meter, and that's required for fire investigations. After the fire, you have to go in and have to make sure the gas in the house, there is no dangerous or hazardous gases. The one I've got's about 5 years old. It requires replacement of the sensors, the LEL or the lower explosive limit, and the oxygen sensors both usually only last about 1.5 to 2 years on those, and they're both failing. The meter's at the maintenance place right now. I can possibly repair it. It'll be about $700 or $800, or I can buy a new meter with all new sensors and won't have to replace those next two. So that's the choice or option there. The new weather station for the sheriff's office roof, we funded that a long time ago from a grant, probably 15 years ago, and it has just reached its end of life. We've replaced the head on the top of it, the wind sensor and direction, speed, and done that before about 6 or 7 years ago, and it's continuing to fail now, and now the display that's in dispatch is failing. And so the ability to have real-time weather on the county website is impacted, and so the best solution for that is a new weather station, and that's in there. And then I would like to explore at least some seed money, and I'm not sure where that line would be exactly, for an intern in the fall, assuming that we get the storm shelter grant that we understand is in consideration still. And then that would be replenished out of that grant funds as we receive those reimbursements for those.
Any questions, Ray?
Well, how much was the weather station, Ray?
It's the Davis Vantage Pro 2 that we have, and we're replacing it with the same one. $14,500. Trying to see
14,000.
what's in that line. Let's see, batteries. Okay, so the 14.5 was for batteries for the backup radios I got in the office and the weather station. I don't remember off the top of my head what the weather station, I want to say 800 to 1,000 probably. I can look it up real quick.
How about the gas meter?
Do the fire departments have gas meters? Some of them do.
Some do. I think it's around $800 or $900.
Somehow I missed that in my totals. Okay, thank you. I'm good, thank you.
Any other questions?
I think those were all in the only one was the intern for the grant was the only one that wasn't in my original submission.
Okay. All right, we'll add those two budget considerations in. Thank you, Ray. Were there any others? Chelsea? Would that be it? All right. Item number 16 is no action at this time. Item number 17 is executive session. An executive session in compliance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Government Code, Vernon's Texas Codes, annotated consultation with county attorney regarding any of the following: proposed actions and advice to the court, real property issues, contracts, and any personnel matters. And if I could ask that the court be cleared, we'll come get you when it's time to come back in. reconvene at 11:01. And we do have a motion from executive session. Basically, we discussed a petition that was presented to the court concerning a proposed gun range. After discussion, it was determined that any further action on the gun range cease and will not take place anymore. So with that, the gun range goes away. I'll make that in the form of a motion, I guess, that we are going to abandon consideration of gun range. Do I hear a second? Second, Commissioner Sicking. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. That motion passes 4-1. Item number 19, discussion regarding Cooke County radio and pager communication systems. Is anybody here that's interested in that topic?
Pagers or radio? Zach Cooper, Valley View Fire Department. So y'all lumped pagers and radios communication in the same thing. So I'll start with pagers just because we know, but I don't want to beat the dead horse either. I know we've all talked about it and we just need to move forward. But a perfect example was yesterday we got 4 calls within a couple hours. And my pager's sitting in the same place that it always sits. I want to show you. This one's pretty clear. A little crackle in it.
2197. Have a report of several brush fires, correction, grass fires along the road.
A little bit of a crackle, but the one right before it.
Valley View fires, major en route, going to be agency assist. Is requesting a brush truck to Sportsman 2 at the 480.
So there's the pager issue. When we were talking about it's not getting, even like in our district, it's not hitting every pager and clear every time. So, and then the info we got on our app as our backup was agency assist fire. And so that's pretty much all we had, all the info we had until we got on the radio and asked for more. And I actually got more info because I just called Sanger directly and said, hey, what do y'all need? What do y'all got? So that's the pager issue that, you know, it just, I happened to catch it yesterday, perfect example. So as far as the radios, our department has a meeting this evening and we're discussing purchasing Tate or purchasing Tate or Kenwood E.F. Johnson radios for our department, dual band 700, 800 radios. I don't think we have the budget, like I said last time, that we're going to go forward with anything, but I'm presenting it to our department just so that we can be thinking about it and having it on our agenda as well. So, like I said, I don't want to beat the dead horse. You know what the problem is, it's capacity and then not everybody being on the same system. So unless you have any questions, you know, specifically for me, I think, after talking to a couple others, I think our biggest thing is we need to get numbers from multiple businesses on, you know, what this would cost us to get capacity and everybody on the same system. So.
Just a second.
Yeah.
I got to take you down memory lane here, rely on your memory a little bit. Back when we had Brittany, this may be a question for you also. Back when we had the tower out by the state school, was it working correctly for Valley View then? Or did we have issues then? For my department, it was still a toss-up. It depended on how far west you got in our district, and then, you know, how far. It was kind of the same. It wasn't as spread out, I don't think. Not that I recall, but it was. I feel like it was more consistently better than what it has been now, but it wasn't always that way. So we still had those dead spots. We still had those ranges where it still came in staticky. It's just pretty much that spot just moved.
whenever.
And I don't know who gets this question. Like I said, it might be Brittany, she might not have been, or it might be Fletcher. Back in that day, were we paging off of 2 towers back then, or 1 or 3?
I think we were on the west tower at that point.
Okay. All right. And the only reason I asked that is we looked at a tower out off of 922 before we went to the water tower for Mountain Springs. That tower sounds like it's still going to be available to us at 300 feet.
That may fix us, but for the other departments that are having the same issues, I don't know.
But it helps you, but it should help North Shore, right?
Yeah.
Probably
Oh.
Station 3.
I mean, without studying it or any of that, I don't know.
Yeah.
We thought the Mountain Springs tower would help everybody, and we know what happened there. So
Well,
you
it
could hit it.
helped,
You could
but-
hit it with the radio, with the portable from that tower location, but the pager was a different story. So I still think that the simulcast on all of them, because like I said, like the other ones, like we got multiple. We've had tons of calls in the last few days. We're getting multiple calls. So when Station 5 got grouped into us, it was clear most of the time, and then we turned around and got a call where Station 1 got toned with us. They were coming down with us, and it was complete static on our end. I don't know if 1 heard it or not. We didn't. It's not something we talk about every call we get, but it's just we notice it. So, and then I think we got called out with Station 2 or 3 as well the other day, and it was the same where it was just all static as well. So, for our department having a tower in Valley View, I mean, it's the central southern Cooke County, would benefit a lot of people. I think you're correct in that. But as far as the other departments that are having the same issues, as far as, if Callisburg has something on 82, or close to 82 or even Indian Creek, and they might be in Gainesville or on the other side of Gainesville, that it's still feasible for them to be able to make it to that call, their personnel to be able to make it over there, but they're not going to get that tone.
It still doesn't, we still don't get the county-wide effect.
Yeah, we still have that county-wide issue
That's
of
what
where you're in the meat market and you don't,
Yeah.
go back to that whole thing. But, you still have that issue. So, I mean, you could throw a bunch of towers up everywhere. I think you're always going to have dead zones, especially if you're only going to page off 1 tower. So if you put a tower on 922, I don't know which one you're talking about, the one out there on the Tower Road or.
No, it's on 922.
So, if you do that, that may fix us, in that spot, and fix 5 and 3 and Valley and North Shore, but then you got ERA that still, I don't know.
Maybe we can synchronize. I don't think some folks realize when you're talking about pager towers and radio towers, they're not one and the same.
Yeah, no, they're completely different.
Some folks don't get that. So it may be that we can sync fewer towers.
Like I said, just to bring, I caught the perfect example yesterday so you could hear it, and the same thing we talked about at the workshop, that it seems silly that somebody in Munster is not going to go to a call over in Lake Kiowa, but in reality, if you're volunteering, like I said, depending on what you're doing, where you're at, you're going to drop everything and go anyways. So you need to hear that tone. And so even within my district, I can't hear, the tone. And I live, just outside of Valley View, so it's on a hill. So it's not like I'm down in a dead spot where in a metal building. So my pager sets on a windowsill on the east side of the house and has direct line. I mean, if I stand outside that window, I can see it over Valley View. So it's not like I'm in a dead zone there. So.
But now, if I understood you correctly, you don't necessarily think that the VHF is.
No, like I said last time, I don't know if VHF, I don't know if spending that amount of money, you're putting a Band-Aid on something, especially if we're talking about getting away from VHF radios anyways. If we're all going to go 800, why Band-Aid go to VHF paging? Our UHF pagers work good when they work. I think it's just a matter of we lost that tower and it did get worse, and we tried to Band-Aid that with another tower, and
they cut our band in half.
Yeah, and the banding got cut in half, and it's just everything that's happened. It just hasn't worked out in our favor, really. I don't know. Like I said, I think if you would simulcast all those towers, because some days I can hear Munster's, like yesterday Munster got toned out a couple times. I think Lindsay a few days before that, usually I can hear them pretty good. It's like, well, maybe I should be toned on that tower. And then the next call I get is, I don't hear nothing. So I think you'd solve a lot of that. And like I said, you know, we need you would have to have numbers to see what, I don't even know, you know, what it would take to simulcast all that. But I think that that's going to be, I don't personally, like I said, for our department, VHF paging is probably not going to work. We're having enough problems with the VHF radios anyways. Like I said, with the tornado being down there in that area, we weren't hardly getting out on portables, and you're talking about something that's got a smaller antenna than what that portable does. I don't know if VHF paging is going to work for us. I wouldn't want to waste my money on it to do it. You know, especially, I mean, testing it, we could test it. I know y'all got a couple of those pagers, carried them around for a little while and kind of, you know, played with them, but we did the same thing when we got that tower with the UHF. You know, we went out there and tested it, and, you know, it's always going to be different than how you test it, you know, perfect scenario versus tornado. So,
Yeah.
You know, like I said, if we're all going to go to 800 eventually, or 700, apologies, you know, I don't think band-aiding and I don't want to carry a different pager. I don't want to have to give all, you know, 26 of my guys a new pager and teach them how to use it, and, you know, it's just a lot to go with that. UHF paging works well. It really does. It has for, I mean, I've been on the department for 22 years, and I've always had a UHF pager. It seems to work pretty good. It's just the way we're doing it right now is not working as good as it should be. So.
It sounds like Valley View in general, southeast part of our county, Grayson has issues, in Collinsville, I believe, Denton has issues. There's just the Golden Triangle or something, or the Bermuda Triangle. Bermuda Triangle is.
Well, I mean, Valley View's besides Gainesville, I mean, I know Munster's populated and busy, but I mean, Valley View's got your heaviest day-to-day population and your heaviest traffic, because we got 12 miles of 35 that we cover. We got 35, we got Lone Oak Road, and we got 922. There's a lot of traffic down there. So we're your busiest department. And that's one of your busiest areas of your county, is because of the infrastructure that's there. And really, I mean, I think a long time ago, it probably should have been considered a little bit heavier to help out the southern part of the county, especially knowing that it's, you know, the geography of it, knowing it's down in a valley. It's Valley View. We know why it was named that. I think a long time ago, it should have been heavily considered to improve communications in that area for the whole county, not just for my fire department, but for the whole county. Just for, you know, for deputies, commissioners, law enforcement, EMS, everybody. I think that should have been something, you know, happened a long time ago. Instead of trying to patch these towers, I still laugh because all the towers, until we got this recent paging tower put down there in Mount Springs, all the towers are in the north part of the county. There's nothing on the south half of the county where half of your infrastructure is at. And I mean, just common sense would tell you, hey, we need to do something down there, like put a tower down in Valley View and solve a lot of these problems.
Well, Denton is getting ready to put one up, but my understanding that we may be able to utilize, also give us microwave direct to them.
Yeah. You're relying on another county again for something, but I mean, I don't know what the inner
tire
workings of
space,
that,
though,
you
is
know,
just
so,
what we'd be
yeah.
relying on, and
So-
it's probably cheaper to pay
Rent-
them rent than it
rent
is
and
to go
build. Oh, of course.
to rent the tower.
Yeah.
And-
Like I said, I'm not, you know, it's not, I don't know what to do with that. Yeah. You know, I don't,
tower coming up for 3 years.
yeah.
Well,
You know, we hear rumors that, oh, they're gonna do this, do this, and do this. I don't, you know, until it actually happens, you know, I don't really believe much, so.
I have a
Just-
tendency to try to talk to the people
So-
I think that have a clue.
But-
No, I mean, I think it's
But,
real.
You know, like I said, like there's no, it's obvious that there's a hole down there that need to be fixed for a long time, not just for the fire department though, but for the whole county, so.
I think we have it Denton County, great. Like I said, it's just a dead zone, and I think maybe all of us are trying to go correct it.
Yeah.
You know, it's hindsight's 20/20.
I think our budget, I think the workshop went good. I don't want to be here all day. I got other stuff I need to do
Oh,
too,
really?
so I'm sure y'all do. Like I said, I don't want to sit here and just beat that dead horse, but, you know, that's just my thoughts on it in the fire department, so.
On your pager deal, you know, said one come in clear and then the other was real static. I guess atmospheric interrupt, I mean. you know, my-
Oh, of course, yeah.
You know, I go up to Vulture and Illinois Bend all the time.
Yeah.
Some days it's crystal clear, next day it won't pick nothing.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, we take that consideration when it happens once in a while,
Right.
but when it's every day,
We're not
I mean.
gonna fix it all.
Yeah, no, but we can make it better.
Right.
You know, like I said, I think, you know, if you could hit all those towers at once, or, you if you had a tower in Valley View that you could just pay just us off of, I think you'd get better coverage. But, but it's not, and it's not just us that it's happening to. I mean, y'all heard at the last few meetings that, it's everybody, EMS and other fire departments are having the same issues we are, and issues that we used to not have as much. Occasionally be like, got a static one, that's no big deal. But now it's every day. We're getting 4 or 5 calls a day, and, several of them are coming in staticky where you can't even understand it. So that's just where we're at with it right now. We just need to figure out what to do to move forward.
That you didn't used to have static.
I mean, not near as much. Like you said, you used to with that other tower. You're correct. Like, it was better. For sure, it was better. And I don't know what they did with the band spacing and with all that. That's over my head. I don't know what they did with all that. I just know that it don't work as good. So.
Kind of like, I think you made the comment earlier about dealing with Cooke County instead of other counties, one thing and another. What might y'all lend to? You've been through a lot of this here recently too, Chief Phillips, Chief Weiner. What might you lend to this conversation here?
Well, like we talked about last week, we'd be glad to invite you over to our system. Of course, that'd be a discussion between you and city managers as far as how that all gets worked out. But we know that that's a possibility. One of the things that got brought up last week or during the last meeting was, maybe the comment of having to throw all your other infrastructure away, and that's not the case at all. As Commissioner Snuggs brought up, a lot of that money was spent on towers and infrastructure that would be reutilized. You would still utilize that equipment. So I think what you really have to look at is, as you move forward, the county's going to grow. There's no doubt it's happening right now as we speak. The city's growing. The lines between our jurisdictions continue to blur. I mean, we're going to be relying on each other more heavily all the time. I think it's imperative that we find a way to be able to work together better. And of course, improve y'all's system, our system, and I think the interoperability is going to be crucial to us. As you move forward, the product that we're using, we're seeing about 1/3 of the cost based on the Motorola product. So while this venture may only save you $100,000 or $150,000, which is still significant, $100,000 is 50 handhelds for your volunteer fire departments. But as you continue to add capacity, more repeaters and those kinds of things, that savings is going to grow exponentially. So I think you just have to look and see where you're at. I know that money has been invested, and so you have to, your constituents have to understand that. So I don't know how you speak to that other than you didn't know what you didn't know. Now we know there's another alternative out there, and all I could ask is, like we've asked in the past a few months ago, just look at it realistically and see what can this do for you. I know there's been some comparison that the tape product's not quite as good as the Motorola product, and from what we've seen and all the site visits we did, that's absolutely not the case. Matter of fact, I think in some cases their product may be a little more durable. I think what you see is that you've just got a manufacturer that doesn't, they recognize that they're still there to serve the public, and Motorola's gotten so, their business model is so expensive. And for the smaller cities and smaller counties, it's cost prohibitive now. If you're the state where they don't have unlimited tax dollars, but they still have a lot more flexibility, or the U.S. government. I mean, we're all accountable for our tax dollars. And so that's all I would ask is, take a look at that. But absolutely, we would love to share systems. I think, the discussions have been had about a shared communication center. I think that would be a really good project to look at. I think the size of our county, I think it could serve us well. This would be one more step to maybe making that happen as well. So that's my thoughts, unless y'all have any specific questions.
I don't know if this is a question for you or for you and Barry. Whenever y'all were in your original research and exploration phase, did y'all get an apples to apples quote with Motorola for what y'all bought?
We did get some comparative quotes, yes. And like I said, from what we've seen, we're about a third to a half the cost of the Motorola product.
I think by the time that maybe I was informed of what y'all were doing, I think by that point y'all were already headed down the Tate Road, and so I never heard of the apples to apples quotes with Motorola at the beginning.
I mean, we know that obviously the radios, that's the big price difference in it, is the way I understand it. And I don't know if we ever asked you, and I don't think ever really visited about it, but had we just added a couple of channels to ours, in other words, repeaters at our towers, I'd have to get with Motorola, see what repeaters cost, but you guys might have got into the infrastructure that we currently have for probably $500,000. And then the price of the radio, so y'all might have been able to get in it under $1 million.
And I don't know what those numbers would be. Yeah. We're, our total project's about 1.2. I mean, that's where we're at. Yeah. So.
And, you know.
And that includes our maintenance as well.
Yeah. And our radios, I think we probably have about $800,000 in radios. The rest, that's infrastructure. But it's my understanding if we joined you guys, they would have to go take out all of our repeaters, all of our intelligence out of our towers, off the ground, and replace it with Tate hardware.
You would need to talk to Robert Stolz about that, be more specific. I think there's a way, true, some of that, it's going to get repurposed. There's a way to repurpose some of that equipment. But once again, even doing that, and that's where I think you see the cost savings again from the Motorola product, or even repeater to repeater. I think you're going to see that savings. Once again, he can speak to that.
But we would be buying repeaters to replace what we have that we don't need.
Well, you repurpose those repeaters, and I'll let him speak to that.
Yeah, okay.
Just adding to it. You're just adding on to it.
And there's also the thought process that if you gain access to our water tower, to our site, you could move your tower further south and maybe solve your Valley View problem.
Yeah, and of course, some of that's yet to be proven, we know. Are you guys, if we join, well, initially, this thought process was to give the volunteer fire departments capacity, correct?
On y'all side, that's what I understand.
Well, but that was, you guys were going to allow them capacity, correct?
If they need to come over to the Gainesville system, that's my understanding. Chief Twine was going to allow them to operate if they needed to.
Yeah, and
Yeah, just to talk to Gainesville, not to have our own channel on their deal.
okay, so.
We can't dispatch for y'all, of course. I mean,
Okay, that's where I'm headed, Chief, is one, you're not going to dispatch for us. So if we spent money to convert, what it's going to do is it's going to give the fire department a channel, well, the ability not to operate as a fire channel, but as needed to communicate with GFD.
Here's the deal. So if we look at the two channels, we got to get out of the channels. There's Sheriff's Department TAC 1, Sheriff's Department TAC 2, EMS, and EMS TAC 1. Am I correct? So that's 5 separate channels.
Talk pass
Going down 2 railroad tracks. So if you got too many trains on the railroad track, if these 2 are talking, these 3 can't. That's the problem. And what I'm saying, if we bring Tate in with 9 channels or 9 more railroad tracks, right now, Motorola's wanting $1.2 million to go from our 2 railroad tracks to 4 railroad tracks. Tate's like to bring it up to 9 railroad tracks is like $800,000?
That was the initial proposal.
Roughly? To get the railroad track, you got to have the railroad tracks. It don't matter how many radios or people you got talking. You got to have the tracks.
I haven't seen any official numbers, so I don't know where the numbers are going.
We said in our last meeting in January, to go to phase 2, 4 talk pass would be $1.2 million from Motorola.
Well, that was.
You had 2 options on there. You're looking at the wrong option, number 1.
How much is it?
The original number we gave you was a budgetary only, which means it was not a state contract. It was based on list prices of a little over 900. You have an actual state contract price today.
Okay,
Less than 700.
so 700,000 for two
Less
more,
than 700.
say 650.
Say 636.
Okay, 636,
Take you to phase 2,
which is 4 talk paths.
gives you 4 talk
Okay,
Right.
so we put fire department on there. We're going to be in the same problem.
No, you got 3 channels today. You got 5 channels today. They're using SO. Well, the problem you run into is if they start using TAC, or SO starts using TAC, and you got SO primary. So talk pass, you've got 2 talk pass, you would go from 2 to 4 talk pass. You're not gonna have the same problem. People have to be mindful, just like on this system, or Denton's system, or anybody else's system. You can program talk groups 1,000 on a core if you wanted, but you're bound by however many talk pass you have in any system.
Is that my train
Regardless
tracks?
of what manufacturer.
Is that my train tracks I'm talking about?
I guess that's your train tracks.
Okay. So if I have public utility, fire department, sheriff's department TAC, and all of them are talking at one time, how many train tracks does it take?
You're gonna have 4 simultaneous conversations, you gotta have 4 talk paths.
You gotta have 4
Yeah.
lanes.
The reality is they don't ever use all 5 of those simultaneously.
Except we did at the test.
Yeah, fire, I mean, at the tornado, I can say it was
Tornado, the problem you ran into is you patched
true,
VHF to 7800.
true.
So like the last meeting, it was brought up that it was unknown to people in the room that when you patch the VHF to 700, you got 2 guys talking VHF to VHF. Even though I'm talking to you, to me, and we're having a one-on-one conversation on VHF fire, you're still tying up that EMS talk.
I understand that. What I'm saying, if we had more train tracks, so if we go from 2 to 4, and we add the fire department into it, do we have enough tracks for everybody to talk?
You do, if you're doing fire, SO, and EMS.
Now what about
You
if we
got
bring
one
the,
open track, so to speak, right? So you have one open talk path.
okay,
And somebody has to be mindful of, you know, of who's using it, how they're using it. So all 5 can be talking back and forth, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. So it just depends on how the system is handing out the channels and how many people are transmitting simultaneously. That's what you get into.
my question,
Simultaneous transmission.
that's what I'm asking. With 4 tracks or 4 ways, and I got EMS talking, I got fire talking, I'm talking all at the same time. We got SO talking and SO TAC talking. Are we loaded?
You're loaded at 4 conversations simultaneously.
So if EMS has a TAC that they're trying to do, they're not going to get in
Unless one of those drop off.
unless one of these drop.
Right.
I don't think 4 is enough.
Okay, here's what happens, I think, in Gainesville, some of you guys correct me if I'm wrong. If we've got 8 paths or 8 tracks to Gainesville, you're gonna have an EMS, you're gonna have an SO, you're gonna have a volunteer fire, you're gonna have a GPD, you're gonna have a GFD, and now then you've got the same scenario, you've got 6 users with 2 open tracks versus 3 users with 1 open track. So capacity is the same.
Just on the Gainesville site. On the sites that are outside of Gainesville, you won't have Gainesville PD and fire.
But if we join their core,
No, sir.
It's all more.
No, because it's based on radio affiliation. So the Gainesville radios will just be affiliated in the Gainesville area, which means they'll just be using the Gainesville tower. Those conversations aren't broadcast to the other sites unless another radio is affiliated to monitor them or to talk to them.
that's where our infrastructure becomes important to Gainesville's radio system.
It gives them expanded coverage, but it doesn't take up the additional capacity like you were talking about in the rural areas. Because the only radios that are going to be affiliated out in the rural areas are the county talk groups and the fire talk groups.
But we're gonna disassemble ours, right? We're no longer gonna have a quote-unquote SO channel at the SO. It's gonna come through the Gainesville core.
No.
No, sir. You're still going to have an SO talk group. You can have 65,535 talk groups if you'd like. We actually have on the Gainesville system, we have 96 talk groups just for interoperability.
I guess our system will accommodate all those talk groups, but you still have to have a path. So how many paths do you have?
That's per site, so you would have, so for instance, like the quote that you're talking about from Motorola, which is 636,000, gives you 4 paths, and that's per site. So just because you have 4 paths at each site doesn't mean that you're taking up all those paths every time one person talks, unless that there's a radio affiliated for that talk group on every single site that you have.
So to me, that's the same scenario. To me, it sounds like, still sounds like we're going to just load Gainesville up. Their paths up.
No, sir, just because the paths at each site are independent of all the other sites. So you can have a talk group, let's say Gainesville Animal Control. If they're just affiliated on the Gainesville site, they're not taking up train tracks at the other sites. That still gives you the additional capacity at the other sites. They're not, just because one person's talking on one site doesn't take up the capacity of all the sites.
But the only way we get there, though, is to basically take our infrastructure and turn it over to the Gainesville system. All our towers and stuff that we were
We're
told.
just running it through it would just be like we're doing with Denton. Instead of running that patch to Denton through their server, you're running through this server, which can handle it. All the Motorola stuff's gonna stay in place. It's just that deal of using them as the server, Gainesville would be the server.
But, okay, hold that thought. Okay, go ahead. I guess you're here to present something.
Am I right?
So the base stations have to be replaced, but so the money that you initially spent for that capital outlay, that doesn't include just base stations. That's probably a small part of the site.
Right.
You have antennas, feed line,
So
transmit
that stays.
combiner, tower top amplifiers, routers, microwave, all that stuff would be reused. And actually, we could reuse the Motorola base stations to provide conventional 7-tack repeaters at each site for backup. So you could actually, since you have those sites that you currently have are capable of doing 6 channels, even if we added 5 channels, which would give you 8 talk paths in the trunk system there, you could add a 6th channel reusing the existing Motorola base stations for interoperability purposes and repurposes as a 7-tack, one of the 7-tack repeater channels at each site.
So okay.
So just based off the numbers that we talked about last week and the numbers that we have today, what we went back and looked at the check registers for the county, and so I know you guys are paying maintenance to Motorola for the system each year. The last 2 years, I think in '22, it was about a little over 200,000. This past year, I think it was about a little over 220,000, which was about a 10% increase. If that stays in effect for this year, you would expect to be paying right around 250,000, I would think, for maintenance.
Can I ask where you're getting that number?
So there were check registers that were paid to Motorola in '22 and '23 they were listed for maintenance, system maintenance.
I think that's incorrect.
Okay.
Because what we pay right now is through Denton, I believe. I'm going to get some more information on that in just a minute.
We have a warranty. We have a service contract that's a fixed amount each year.
But, I mean, it sure would have been nice if we would have got with Gainesville out in front of this thing, but hindsight's 20/20.
So just based off of the maintenance costs that we have, you're looking at a savings of, at a minimum, $100,000 a year just in maintenance costs if we replace the sites that you have with, and move them over to the Gainesville core. One thing that it also does is it gives you the capability to use their Gainesville site. So you could take the current site that you have, the Cooke County Gainesville site, and move it to the south. So you could move it into the area of Valley View that would fix your Valley View or your coverage on the south side of the county.
What tower would you put that on while you were doing that?
I'm sorry, sir?
What tower is available to go do that?
So if, let's say you move to the Gainesville core, you could take the site that's here in Gainesville that you currently have, and that could be moved to the south part of the county because you're going to be able to utilize the existing Gainesville Tate system, or Tate site that's here now, that Gainesville is currently using.
I think it'd be cost prohibitive for us to take that tower down. It's huge. It's what, 400 foot? Right, looking at it's a 400 monopole that's been there for 20 years, 30 years. How long has it been there? But we get upped it, didn't we? Made it taller. Yeah.
So the tower itself wouldn't have to be moved, it would just be the equipment that would be moved.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yes, sir. So, I'm sorry?
We'd have to find a tower down south. Well, correct. We just had to find a location for it. But you can move that equipment to that location and just use their Gainesville tower for our location here. That's what he's saying.
It just is ironic that the criticism we took for spending $4.5 million to build out our infrastructure, and all of a sudden we're going to trash that and pay to transition to Gainesville and give up that infrastructure?
You're not giving the infrastructure up.
Okay. I guess all those repeaters and stuff in there were free.
No, I'm not. You still will use the repeaters in there.
Yeah, they could, like I said, they could be used for interoperability purposes, to put interoperability repeaters at each site.
Yeah.
Different channels. Okay. Have you got a presentation, or what's your number? I'm assuming you have one. Y'all worked together for several weeks over this. You have some idea what the number is to convert, or for us to join the Gainesville Corps?
So the number that we gave last week was for adding 5 channels at each site, which would give you 8 talk paths. To give you an apples to apples comparison to the 4 talk path quote that Motorola provided, we would have to go back and work those numbers for you.
We're told that's insufficient, though, if I believe that. So what's 8 talk paths, Robert?
Well, that's what the cost that we gave, which I think was in the neighborhood of $700,000.
Are you looking to add them for that number, or?
I think that's about what it was.
Yep.
Let me look.
Come on, Bubba. I'm sorry, Judge, that should have been your call.
No, that's all right.
You built the system for Gainesville to cover 18 square miles. Whatever.
Hit that mic right, if you will, be sure.
Whatever it is. So we're covering 900 square miles. And right now, we're covering about 99% of it. Pretty clear. So I want to be clear when you said, well, if you're talking on one tower, you're not taking up space on another tower. Is that what? You're not taking a talk pass off another tower? Is that kind of what you said?
It depends on who's talking.
So we're simulcasting on 4 sides.
Correct.
Every time we press a key, so that we're covering that 900 square miles. So I don't know how you can say, well, since we are simulcasting, how it's not going to take up room at all.
So when I gave that answer, I was talking about Gainesville key, because what Commissioner Hollowell said was, every time Gainesville keys up, it's going to key up on all the sites, and that's not the case. Because they're not simulcasting on every site. The sheriff's office.
Well, they only have one side, so you can't, you know what I'm saying? Right.
What we were talking about is if you had 5 sites, for instance, and you were on the Gainesville core, you had your 4 sites, and then Gainesville had the 5th site at the center, they would just be talking on the Gainesville site. The sheriff's office would be simulcasting on all the sites.
But we're still sharing talk paths with your total number.
Yes, you would be sharing talk paths on those external sites, yes. But not with Gainesville PD on those external sites. The trunking systems, Motorola and Tate, are both, they work the same, it doesn't matter. So whether you have 2 2 top paths or 4 top paths or whatever, what you're talking about is gonna be the exact same if you had a shared system.
So,
That's why Gainesville doesn't allow their talkers to come up here and they don't allow your talkers to go down there, is because they don't, one, you don't have the capacity because there's only 2
So-
talk paths here.
How many talk paths will we have, the county?
There would be 5, there would be 8 talk paths on each side based on the proposal that we did.
So, what I'm saying is, we're simulcasting at the same time, so
Right.
it's- you're taking up, all 4 are using the talk path at the same time. I mean,
Well, but you're talking about I'm talking about per site. Like, let's say, if you're talking about all the sites, well, that means that you would have 32 talk paths. So anytime you key up, you would be taking 1 talk path at each site.
so you're saying we would have 8 talk paths regardless of what Gainesville.
Correct.
In
Gainesville
addition
wouldn't
to
interfere with our system at all.
That's correct. Because the only time that they're only affiliated on the central site. So, but now let's say they got called out to assist a deputy or something, right? They would probably switch to the SO channel when they were going out there, which means that their traffic still wouldn't be simulcast that are brought out to, your sites on the system.
see, I'm still confused because if we keep our system intact so that we are simulcasting, I'm missing something with the paths and how it's going to multiply so much. It still sounds to me like we've got 8 talk paths. And when, it sounds to me like we still have 8 talk paths. What talk paths do we have for the sheriff's office? Where are they going to be? Are they going to be communicated through the Gainesville Core?
Well, yeah, all the sites connect to the Gainesville Core, just like today you connect to the Denton.
And when we get cut through from here to Denton, we're done. Can you talk on your radio? No, you're done. That's my suggestion, is bring it into the Gainesville Core. We can be hardwired in, we can be microwaved in, you can probably have a cell phone connection if you wanted it. I mean, isn't there 3 or 4 options? One goes down, the other one kicks in.
So currently for the Gainesville site, we have a microwave or a fiber ring. So we have dark fiber that goes both directions, east and west from the tower. So we have the primary connection is dark fiber, the secondary connection is dark fiber. And then at both sites, at their dispatch site and their RF site, we have FirstNet. So if both of those happen to get cut, it would actually fell over to FirstNet, and those sites are connected via FirstNet. So we actually have 3 different types of backup.
So,
Let me ask one question here. We talked about using the Gainesville site over and over and over again. I want to make sure that that's okay with,
Yes, I mean.
Okay.
If you could put something on our towers, just like we use one of y'all's towers, that's just, we don't see that as an issue.
I didn't want to just keep throwing this out there without getting that assurance right there, first of all.
I mean, our council will have to approve it, but just like y'all let us use y'all's, towers and different things, I just can't see that our council would not do that, but that's sort of the main thing.
we've heard some stuff from Tate. You've given us some numbers. I'd like to hear Motorola's side of this and see what they say about your proposal versus what they have for us. That's okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. We've got a couple of 3 reps here from Motorola. Wes, y'all can come up.
What he's referring to is site trunking versus simulcast. You guys are not simulcast. You're site trunking today. And the county's going to be giving up a lot when you pull off Denton's Court. You've got interoperability to the south. You can do talk group roaming to the south. We're going to lose dispatch interfaces to Denton County talk groups that we have today that you're not going to have when you pull off that. There's a lot of feature and functionality that the Denton Core has that you're not going to have on another manufacturer's core. The county really needs to be mindful of what you're doing and look at both directions and which way you're going to go before you come to a decision like that. Motorola's not the cheapest. We've never been the cheapest. We never will be the cheapest. But if you look around you and you look at the systems around you, not just from a subscriber standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint, that is the bulk of what surrounds you, not only in Oklahoma, but in North Texas. So y'all need to take a really hard look at what you're doing and how you're going to do it before you make a decision, and be sure you have all your facts straight.
Denison's coming up on Motorola. Denison is coming up on Motorola.
Denison is putting in their own Motorola core. Grayson County will be tying into that core as well.
Okay.
So that's another opportunity for you guys to do infrastructure and coverage sharing between Cooke and Grayson County property, county lines, and redundancy as well.
Let me ask again, now how would your system tie in with Sherman and Denison?
So we're currently implementing a 4-site, 5-channel Phase 2 system for Sherman. So the plan with Sherman and Gainesville already have an agreement where they're going to tie their cores together. Sherman purchased their own core just like Gainesville did. So those sites are going to be tied together for interoperability purposes, and they'll be able to allow roaming across both systems. You know, Wes is right. There are some features that Motorola provides that Take can't. But the question is do you currently use those features? And my question would probably, or my answer would probably be no. You probably use a system the way you want to use it, which is you press to talk and you release to listen. And it sounds like today that system is not working for you because the channels, you don't have enough channel capacity. So when there's more than 2 people talking on the system, the third person can't talk. So, so in terms of interoperability, the plan, which we actually included radio gateways for the Sherman system to be able to talk to Denison. We had a meeting about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, to discuss that between Sherman and Denison. And the plan is to allow Sherman to program Denison's system in their radios and to allow Denison to program Sherman's system in their radios.
But the cores are not going to interact. That's the same scenario we're looking at here by letting, by programming our radios with Gainesville's new frequency, correct?
Correct, and just like Gainesville does today, they have your system programmed into their radios. So if they need to talk to the sheriff's office or EMS, they can switch over and talk to them.
And once you connect Gainesville and Sherman, what's your next closest take core in the state of Texas? Mesquite?
That's a good question. I don't know that off the top of my head.
What? Speak to me, somebody?
Oh, Balch Springs, that's correct.
Box Springs, thank you. Okay, all right. Thank you. Wes, the scenario we was going through earlier, which the scenario that I was going to earlier where I said, hey, if we join the Gainesville Corps and the 8 talk pass, and I said EMS would consume 1, Sheriff's Office consume 1, volunteer fire, GPD, GFD, and I'm told that's incorrect. Can you help me with that?
So, yeah, what Robert was talking about is the difference between site trunking and simulcast trunking. So you guys are currently site trunking. So if you're out at Pentex and I'm out at Walnut Bend, we only have 2 subscribers affiliated with those 2 sites. Rice Avenue is not transmitting at that time. So it's site affiliation. When you simulcast, doesn't matter whether you got 1 subscriber out there associated with 1 site, they're all 4 going to be going all the time. So it's the difference between site trunking and and doing simulcast trunking, and there's advantages to both. There's going to be some disadvantages to both. It all depends on what your needs are. But as far as your talk pass, yes, when you currently phase 1, when you do a phase 2 upgrade, you're going to instantly double your capacity right then and there. So y'all have got room for additional base station add-ons at all 3 of your sites today. Every one of them has the additional to add channels or base stations on phase 1 or phase 2, either way. So you're not maxed out at doing a phase 2 conversion. You're just only maxed out with the number of base stations that you have. So you can grow up to 3 more channels at each site today. Antenna systems will handle it, networking will handle it, microwave, backhaul, everything there is built out for a 6-channel system. You guys only purchased 3 today at phase 1 because that's all the county asked for. So the capacity you guys got was the capacity that you asked for at the time that you bid it. Now that capacity has changed. I get it. Railroad tracks, whatever you want to call it, I get it. But initially, it's not pointing back to you didn't get what you want. You got what you asked for, but
I agree with
the
that.
needs have changed. I get it.
Yeah.
Fires want to be on 700. Maybe that's better in the end run. It probably is. So now you're at a point where you have to account for that capacity.
Right.
Whether it's by adding channels and staying phase 1, whether it's by keeping what you have and going phase 2, or a combination of both. I think everybody in the room, nobody's going to dispute that. It's just a matter of how you get there.
Right.
And what's going to be best. And yes, there are features that we do that you don't use today. But there's features that, those features, especially from a law enforcement perspective, that they very well could use in the near future. So don't limit what you have just because you don't use it today. Doesn't mean you're not going to need it a year down the road.
What are some of
Or a
those
year and a
features?
half down the road.
What are the features you talk? GPS?
Smart, no. Yeah, anybody can do GPS.
Okay.
That's nuts compared to that. We do Smart Connect. We have a huge Smart Connect users. Grace County is going to be using Smart Connect. We have the ability to transition from either Wi-Fi or LTE without the use of a third party for the radio to have seamless roaming from an RF site over to FirstNet LTE and then back. The radio seamlessly negotiates it by looking at RSSI signal. We can also do it on Wi-Fi. Your radios today will do it on Wi-Fi through Denton County's core. You probably don't know that because you're not using it. But it has, your 8,000 you have in service today will do that.
Is there a cost to that?
Well, sure there is. It's a subscription just like anybody's
Yeah.
system. Whether you go Tate, Harris, Motorola, there are subscription costs to it because now you're using something other than RF.
So what would you use it for?
Grace County is going to use it to keep from having to put up as many sites and push them over into another budget year. We have investigators, we have CIDs, district attorney's offices use them. They spend more time out of the service area than they do in the service area. They're not going to be putting mobile radios in their cars. You know, they don't need it. They can get on LTE and they can talk anywhere they got FirstNet coverage. Doesn't matter where they're at.
How would fire department use?
It doesn't do anything for capacity,
Right.
but if they get in an area where there is no 700 coverage, that would allow that subscriber to roam over on LTE. Now, Wi-Fi wouldn't be very beneficial to them unless you were using like a Sierra wireless modem in a vehicle, you know, but most people aren't going to have that from a fire perspective except for some of the larger paid fire departments, but LTE can definitely be beneficial.
We talked a little bit about paging using 700 too.
Do what, sir?
You also talked about being able to page over 700.
You can page on 700. I get why these guys, I mean, we could page EMS ring downs today on 700, but I get why they don't want that. It makes sense. It'll work. But the problem is if he gets a tone out at Station 1, he's his first mutual aid, he doesn't get any, there's no prequel to that. Valley View doesn't get anything to say, hey, they're about to get called out on a wreck in our area. So now they've got to page it on 700, then turn around and send it to them on VHF. So I get why they don't want to do that.
And while we're on this pager thing, just a minute, we keep hearing the bandwidth was cut in half. Bandwidth was cut in half. Can you talk to that?
As far as the paging?
The paging, the bandwidth.
Well, yeah, I mean, you had narrowband deadlines that were January 1, 2013 was when that narrowband conversion, so that wasn't anything any recent.
That was a FCC.
That was a deadline in January 1, 2013, when everything got narrow-banded. The biggest thing that affected the paging, which apparently it wasn't perfect from what he's saying, but you still had a few issues, but it's better than what it is today, is when you lost the state school tower. You went from 400-foot antenna down to half.
So it has nothing to do with bandwidth. It has to do, again, with
That situation had nothing to do with bandwidth. The bandwidth that's being referred to is when we went from 25 kilohertz channel spacing to 12 and a half, cut your modulation down. Modulation is what drives an RF signal. The more audio you can cram in it, the further it's going to travel. Narrowbanding decreased a bunch of footprints nationwide.
Let's give Wes a minute. He's standing there with a question.
Yeah, when I said I was in favor of doing 700 paging, under the current configuration, if there was more talk pathways that would allow for it, then it could probably work. I know Denton County uses it, and so they have a process down there to work. But that's it in a nutshell. Is the reason it wouldn't work for us today, given the configuration of the system we have. All right, that's the reason I was against it.
Yeah.
But one thing, we made a big step at going forward to 700, okay? If you're looking for recommendations, we don't put Band-Aids on an old system or try to revive an old system. We keep taking steps forward. And if we need to move to 700 for paging, since that's where we seem to be going anyway, then that's where we need to be looking. I mean, why invest more money in a system that we know is going out in the future?
It's going to take a while to get 700, but
Yeah, it'll take a while.
yeah, but
You know, it's not
it's
not
money
happening
better
next month.
spent.
It's not happening next month, no. But if we're looking at it, then let's look at moving forward instead of idling.
But you don't have any issues with it. As far as our coverage and our 700 system now, do you have any issues with it other than capacity?
Very few. I mean, there's going to be, other than the thing that I've brought to West's attention, I still can't understand, is our portables do better than our mobiles. Our handheld radios reach out better than the ones in the trucks. But I'm sure there's going to be some dead spots here and there. But overall, the coverage has been good for us.
So primarily, what we have a capacity issue with our current system.
That's my belief, yes.
So you know, it's all about, we have coverage, Gainesville has capacity. Which one do we go fix? You know, but we have a system we know is working.
Well, sort of.
No, I'm talking about 700 radios. You just told me capacity.
Yeah.
We don't have capacity.
Yeah, if we have the capacity, it's working. If we don't have the capacity, then it doesn't work.
Right, but we could have more train tracks and stuff of that
Right,
nature
right.
and have less coverage. Because right now, your folks take off with a child to Fort Worth or Children's or wherever. They can have continuous communication back to Cooke County, is my understanding.
Okay.
So to speak on that, yes, we can speak all the way down to like Fort Worth, but I go to Sherman and I cannot.
That'll change when Garrison is up.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, you take though, is that gonna be any different?
It depends, so when you go down to Denton, are you still on the?
I mean, the only benefit it is that I can speak and tell them when I'm at the hospital, or if there was a major, something catastrophic happened in an ambulance or something at that time. Which don't get me wrong, would be great, but,
I mean,
it doesn't matter that.
now that's a feature you have that costs nothing. That's a feature that costs nothing though, for the most part.
So I guess is what we're looking at is what's more important to us, coverage south or coverage east?
What? So,
I guess is what it would kind of boils down to is which is more important and which is more useful to us, is coverage going south or coverage going east.
It sounds like comparable coverage is coming to the east eventually. So I have a question. It would
Sure it's
be
not
for
me.
I don't know who the answer to this would be, Wes, or forgive me for not knowing your name from tape.
Right.
So we depend on Gainesville Fire for mutual aid, where they don't depend on us. If they are out on a mutual aid call and they get beyond their coverage, which we don't know what that is at this moment, even though I guess we got the VHF, but if our VHF goes away, if our cores aren't tied together, can they, see where I'm going with this? If they get beyond their towers, if they key up, will it reach our towers if they're keying up to our dispatch, or, see what I'm saying?
Could go over your VHF simulcast fire, Gainesville Fire is still running multi-band, are they not? Yeah, they're still running multi-band radios, so they can go over to your VHF fire. It could even be an Iowa Fire Talk group created, on your port once you have capacity, so that they can reach on that, which could go back in.
I guess, we sit here and talk about I guess we sit here and talk so much about 7-800, I forget that we still got the VHS.
Yeah, but Gainesville would prefer to get off that because we did that so we could talk to the volunteer fire departments, but it actually cost us more money to do the full band with them. And, the future is coming up to 700, 800.
Hi, Chief.
Okay. Commissioner Snuggs, your deal, we do rely on volunteer fire departments. They come to our mutual aid requests also. So that communication has to go both ways.
Well, I just feel like we rely on y'all more, is why I said that.
I feel like the last 3 months we've been on this hamster wheel. So both systems work. Motorola, Tate. It doesn't matter if you roll into Denton County, you get on their 700 system if you got their channels. We roll into Grayson County, Sherman, we got their channels. We've got interoperability throughout the whole state with 7-800. That's not the question here. We just keep going over and over. My biggest concern as a fire chief is we bring all the volunteer fire departments up to 7-800 so we can communicate. We don't have to have dual band like Barry said. But I guess my confusion is it just seems like you're so reluctant, Commissioner Hollowell, to get on Gainesville's system. Gainesville is in Cooke County, and you're so concerned about Denton County. They have a 7-800 system down there. If you jumped on ours, you're still going to be able to roll on their system when you go south. You've got their channels pre-programmed in your radios. I mean, what we're talking about here is money. It's the cost. That's what every time, we don't know how to pay for it. We've got a Chevy, and you've got Dodge. What the city of Gainesville brought you was a cheaper alternative. We had to be good stewards of taxpaying dollars. We went out, we did our research for over a year, and we found a solution that worked best for us, our taxpayers. I don't care if you go with Motorola or Tate as a fire chief. You're going to be on a 7-800 system once you spend the money. Doesn't matter to me. You got to pick one that you can afford. It's that simple. So we go back and forth on what it offers. They both do the same thing.
Right.
It's just it's cost. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Hang on.
Also,
Hang on.
Fire has had our 700 since they bought it. Correct. A year ago, sir. So they can talk to the county on 700 now.
But what we got's not broke. It just needs capacity, yeah.
They can talk, utilizing our system today.
I just want to clarify something that got brought up last meeting. Before 700 ever came to Cooke County, we have two 700 radios, or 800 radios. We can talk to Denton County, in any department we went to there. We have it in our radio because we're a subscriber on their system. We're just an extension of theirs. That has nothing to do with Cooke County, Grayson County, any other county. And it has nothing to do with which system, what brand they use. I'm with Twiner. I don't care which system you get. I just want to have the capacity to be on there. Just because you switch a core from one to another, anybody that has that channel and is allowed on that system in Denton County or Grayson County, whatever, as long as we have that channel, it's just like having their VHF fire channel. If I switch to that channel, I can talk to them. I don't care as long as I can hit that tower and I'm allowed as a subscriber on that system. So even now with Cook County having 700, my only downfall right now is I don't have that radio programmed over to that. I'm not going to pay to reprogram that whole radio because we're probably just going to get rid of it and trade it in and get something different. And even if I get on the Cook County EMS and SO 700, I can still switch that radio over to Denton County, and I can talk to any Denton County department, dispatch anybody that I need to, just to clarify that. Just because you get off of one, doesn't mean you lose your ability to talk to it. It's just a programming difference and making sure you're a subscriber on that system. So.
One of the things that Chief Twarner didn't mention is we do have phase 2, and we would encourage the county, whatever decision they make, that they go to phase 2, because when y'all are tied to us, if y'all come through us and y'all talk to us, y'all lower our capacity to phase 1 whenever y'all key up. So we really would encourage y'all to go phase 2. Just don't add additional channels, because what you're doing there is you're reducing the number of channels we get when y'all try to talk to us, because you bring our system down to phase 1. So that would be one very important thing for us, is y'all to go up to phase 2 so y'all don't diminish our capacity.
And I agree with you, and it's not anything to do with I don't want to join Gainesville. Worked with you guys for years. We spent $4.5 million on our infrastructure, and I don't want to start tearing it up. It makes more sense for us to add capacity, and you know, if there's space on it that you guys want to add towers to expand your coverage, so be it. Commingle. I don't know that that's possible. I'll ask that question next.
I just don't understand, because you're not tearing your system apart. Now you have 2 choices. And the choice is you get to use a lot of the same stuff you have. You change a few pieces. But with cost, you have to look at not cost on upgrading, but cost on how many channels you get when you upgrade. What's the cost per channel? And if you just switch over from one to the other, you're not trashing your old system. Either one of them, you have to pay for the upgraded capacity. You either do it through Motorola, or you do it through tape or another radio station. So for us, that's what we're, just as city manager, what I would be asking you to do is look what the cost per channel is. You're still using your same radios, you're still using your same towers, you're still using most of your system. You change out a few parts, just like they're gonna have to change out some stuff with Motorola or add some additional stuff, especially to get you up to 8 channels. So you're not getting rid of your old system, you're using your old system, and both of them are going to have new parts and components put on them, one way or the other. So I wouldn't get that you're getting rid of your system, because you're not. It's just both of them you're going to have to change some parts out on.
But right now, we don't have to change. Our system works. It's just increasing capacity.
And once again, both of them with your system, either with Motorola, you're going to have pieces and parts to it, especially if you get up to 8 channels. And the same thing with tape. Both of them, you're adding some pieces and parts to it. So it's not like you're getting rid of your system with either one. So, I wouldn't like it like, oh, we're getting rid of our radio system. You're not. You're just switching out some parts and components and moving forward.
Well,
and that's going to happen with both of them.
And excuse me for asking this again too. One of the reasons I thought we were here is because our system does not work like it's supposed to. Isn't that kind of why we're here? Does it work marginally?
It's not a matter of it not working, it's a matter of it not working to capacity or when we need it to.
Okay. Which, to me,
yes, it
work.
does function. We can be just about anywhere in the county.
Right.
Talk on the radio.
So it needs to be fixed, in other words.
We need more talk on this.
There you go.
Now, you ladies, y'all have got some numbers. Do you want to talk about some numbers? It's my understanding we can go phase. This $636 doubles capacity. We go phase 2, which helps Gainesville as far as doesn't impact their capacity. Can you hear me? You good? Other features, what do we need to talk to? You're welcome to.
Hello. My name is Laura Therian. I work for Motorola Solutions, and I'm not sure if you've
You
seen...
may have to move up to that
Oh,
microphone.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure if you've seen the proposal yet or not. But anyway, first of all, thank you for letting us be here today to speak with you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being a good customer of ours. In terms of the proposal that we sent over, it is,
They haven't seen it.
oh, okay.
They haven't seen it.
Right, so it's for quantity 4, phase 2 TDMA site licenses, quantity 12, phase 2 TDMA base
You got
radio
copies?
licenses. That's for the master site licenses and then the RF site software that goes with it. And then it also includes the flash upgrades that would be needed for the subscriber units. I think it was a total of 165. I think we've talked about, just in general, what that gets you for capacity. And just listening to the conversations today, it sounds like, we have the ability at Motorola to do a capacity analysis and just see, like, where do you sit now with your loading, with your capacity, and where should it be, right? So like Wesley said, we gave you the capacity that was asked for originally, and we could rerun it and see, is this going to do it? Based on what we know about the county, the population, we feel like this is going to cover it, but we can go back and do a capacity analysis and just kind of say, for sure, based on what you're running right now, this is where we think that you should be. And just real quick, it was mentioned about the warranty and maintenance. I went ahead and, since I was in the back, I could do this, while y'all were talking. You do pay $109K per year, and that was as of this year.
How much is it?
$109K.
But that's warranty.
Warranty.
That's not,
warranty maintenance.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think you do your, since you tie into Denton Core, you pay them for your SUA, your software upgrades.
and we share that with Louisville, Carrollton, I think, Denton, yeah,
Right,
everybody in
Flower
Denton's
Mound, I
core.
think.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so we don't do the blunt of that.
Correct. And just another note, I actually.
Thanks, Zach.
I'm sorry? Go ahead.
You're fine. I was just telling Zach, thank you for showing up, yeah.
Well, I was going to tell them, so I was talking to the PM for the Denton County system. So they did purchase a Roanoke site and a Sanger site. And that Sanger site is at the very top of the very northern area of Sanger. So that's going to increase your coverage for the county in that area.
That's the intersection of 455 and 455.
So what you're saying, that our radios are going to talk through that?
What?
Our radios will talk through that?
We can actually microwave that and eliminate your fiber and your cost of your fiber.
I'm talking about our radio. When I key my radio up and I'm down at Sanger, is it going to hit their tower and talk to my dispatch?
Correct.
With talk group sharing using Denton's core, yeah, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Do we do that now?
With the sheriff's office, yes, we do, and you can actually do it with EMS on fire, IO, and EMS IO talk groups. Yeah, they can do that all day long. You will lose that ability once you pull off their core.
Yeah, and they're going to start building that tower in September. It's going to come online next summer.
A little sooner than 3 years.
No, we've been talking about this for 3
But I'm
years.
telling you, that's the reason I'm bringing it up.
And I've been working with Lieutenant Billy Willis for a long time, and I know it's been a long time.
And
But they bought it last year, and now it's actually, they had to get through all the civils. There's stuff, environmental stuff that they had to go through that anytime you build a new tower, as y'all know, you have to go through. So they finally got all those approvals, and they'll start working on it.
And you think September, that tower comes up September?
They're going to start building it in September. Mhm. And then the system itself with those 2 new sites will be cut over next summer.
And I seem to think we'll be able to possibly not only microwave the 700, but put up an additional VHF site that we could utilize while we continue to move forward with volunteer fire.
If that's what's decided is how y'all want to pursue it, then yes.
That's just a potential out there.
Something they can negotiate with them to do that. That's all.
Yeah, but this solution is a phase 2 TDMA. It'll take you from the phase 1 FDMA to phase 2 TDMA, which is what he was speaking of, right? So That's what was included in the proposal.
And that's what the city manager asked us to do, and that's included, okay?
Mhm.
If you do an upgrade to phase 2 today, it's going to take you to 4 total.
So that's all wrong. I mean,
Yeah, it doubled your capacity, yeah.
but it still doesn't really solve
The likelihood of y'all being on all those channels all at once.
currently. However, we gotta quit looking at current.
Well, sure,
We gotta look
I get it.
Down the road, and if fire department does get on
Right.
700 system, it doesn't work.
I 100% agree with you.
Currently, I mean, even if, like, so, when we're talking about the tornado, what happened there was 2 channels got patched together on this top path, and then 2 channels got patched together on this top path, and we killed our radio system. So, if we had another major incident in the county that happened at that point, say a wreck north of Galesburg, we had no radio communications, proper radio communications anyway for that. So, that's a big issue, and I don't see how anybody can sit up here and say that it's not. Like, I mean, if I was in that wreck north of Galesburg, I would want them to be able to talk on their radio. Sure.
Well, part of that's educational and protocol. I mean, you're going to overload any of them if you don't start moving off on your ground channels.
I don't understand, but your ground channel takes up the top half.
No.
Not on there.
Ground channel meaning line of sight, like a V5 or VTAC, which has nothing to do with
And
the
you've got
sound.
all those VHF ground channels in your EMS radios. So a lot of it is procedural. And then it gets back to what can we afford? This group may think different. We can't bite this apple whole. We're going to have to bite it in pieces.
Totally understand. I want what's best for the county, I'm a taxpayer here too, so don't get me wrong, but I'm looking at it from 2 sides.
No, we all agree capacity is an issue, and that's the reason he said we could expand it up to another 6 channels or something. And I don't doubt that may happen.
He didn't say 6.
What?
He said 4.
4 now. We're going to double now. We're going to go from
You
2 to
can go
4.
up to 6 channels per site total, either in phase 1 or phase
Total.
2. 6 base stations.
But this is for 2 more.
No, this is for a phase 1 to phase 2 conversion. You're not adding
They're not even adding
any
channels.
base stations out there.
So you're not
The
adding
original
any more.
quote you got confused about earlier, the initial budgetary that we submitted, you had 2 options. Option 1 was from an FDMA phase 1 to TDMA phase 2 conversion. That was the original budgetary of a little over 900.
Okay.
We gave you an option 2, which was to stay phase 1 and add 2 base station resources at each of the 4 towers, each of the 3 tower sites. That's the 1.2 or whatever number you threw out earlier. So you were getting the 2 options confused. So one adds hardware,
Okay.
one adds software licensing at the core of the site, the dispatch console, and then, so it's 2 totally different options, 2 totally different conversions.
Did either one of them give us more talk paths?
Both of them.
Converting, both of them do.
How many?
We already been through this twice, literally. Phase 2 takes you from where you are today, 2 talk paths to 4.
Okay.
The option 2 upgrade you had was going to also take you to 4, but staying on phase 1.
Correct.
So they gave you 2 options, just 2 different ways to do it.
But by going phase 2, that helps us if we join Gainesville, or when we're interacting with Gainesville. You don't utilize their capacity.
6 months down the road, a year down the road, you can throw in additional base station resources. And now you went from 4 to 6, or 6 to 8. I mean, there's all kinds of expandability and capacity built there. That was the reason y'all bought it the way you bought it, was because this was your needs today. Here's your needs 2 years down the road. Here's your needs 3 years down the road. The infrastructure is there to support what you need. It just wasn't a need at the time you purchased it.
Well, some of it had to do with money.
I'm
The big thing had to do
always a
with
big
money,
factor.
and how much was available to spend.
Right.
So we had a base station, that gives us another talk path.
If you were to add a piece of hardware, a base station at each of your sites, and upgrade what you have today in phase 2 and add a base station, that would actually take you from 4 to 6 talk paths. If you add the base station hardware on top of that, upgrading what you have as well.
Then you said you could add another base station that would increase.
Increases by 2, then it takes you to 8.
Once again, I asked the question. It's not working right now, is it? If my TV at home, if it works most of the time, part of the time, it's not working. I want it to work all the time, every time I turn it on and every time I need to use it. Okay, and so what we have now, it's not working, and it's been how many years that we have, that's taken us to get to this point here where it still doesn't work. And you might say that's not necessarily that important right now. We'll talk about this more in the future and everything else. There's a lot of people in the south part of the county that a month ago wished that it worked perfectly then, and it didn't. Okay? And the south part of the county is where it's building up again. That's where I live. I just assume the radios work perfectly when my house catches on fire or whatever. I think Gainesville's got a great idea here. Theirs seems to work fine. And they ask the same question, you know, why are we even talking about working with some other county and one thing and another when we can work with our own county? I don't know, there's a lot of questions that admittedly, you guys are the experts, I'm not. But one thing I do know, if it's not working, it needs to be fixed. And because what do we do here as a county government? I've said it before. We serve the people of this county here. And to serve the people of this county here, we owe it to them to give them something that works so that we can protect the people of this county. And we can sit here and talk about it from now on. And evidently, that started back before I got here again. Okay, and it's still not fixed. So what do we need to do to fix it?
So is there a...
Do what?
Are you done?
Yes, I am.
Is there a ballpark? Let's say we wanted to go to 6 talk paths. Can you throw me a ballpark figure for that additional on top of this 636? I won't ever hold you to it. I'm on camera. Work on that. So then another thing, like, I think it was misconstrued. Like, I think when, and I feel like we need to move forward. It might take us a year, it might take us 2 years. I don't know, it might take us 3 years. But we need to move forward to everything being on 700. That's never been an issue. We just got to figure out how and when we're going to fund it. I think, Gary, whenever you talk about, you don't mean tearing up our system. I think you mean just, if you, Twitter said earlier, you know, you got Ford and Chevy. I think it's just a matter of, do we want to mix Ford and Chevy parts? Or Dodge and Chevy, however it was. You know, that was my concern too, is mixing it together. I know it would work fine because it's all radio components, but then we just have a hodgepodge kind of system. Did you get that number?
Not to interrupt you, just so for the record, all of our apparatus, we kept Motorola on all of our apparatus.
Right, yeah.
We did not change those out. We have tape handhelds. So we're running Motorola and tape components in our system.
Right. I just meant at like our tower sites, our control boxes and repeaters or whatever was what I meant. Yeah. Because we have police departments that are on our system too they're running different radios because the radios are less expensive. What was that figure? You walked back up, so I thought you might have one.
I was looking at it to see if our engineering had something off the top of her head, so she's going to pull these together.
Okay.
And by the way, we just got kind of pulled into this last week, so can you hear me okay?
And it may be,
Communication doesn't work all the time.
But I feel like.
Instead of doing 6, do 8. Do an 8 channel. That way you compare it to the other company that's doing apple to apple.
That's a better plan. Well,
Why? It's just one.
well,
What we can do with a core is different than what they can do with a core. It'll never be apples to apples. You can compare it all day long. It'll never be apples to apples.
But the question is, do you need all that?
Yeah, you do.
But another question is, how much does everything you do license? Like our radios, GPS, and our handhelds, we're enabling that on our system. But there's no licensing cost for it. It comes with the system. That's the problem with the Motorola business model. Everything costs.
Right. Pay for what you want, and if you don't want it, you don't pay for it. That'd be like me saying, hey, I'm gonna throw every bell and whistle in the radio, so what might cost you $400,000 if I gave you the option, it's gonna cost you $10,000. I don't want that option. Well, this is that, we include it. I can rebuttal the option.
That's not what we see in the price.
I mean, you guys ran Motorola for how many years? Close to 30? 30 years? Yeah.
But,
And then,
in West, you know,
I get it, I get it, but
the pricing and the end of lifing and all that we see.
that's any manufacturer. You can't maintain something forever. It's not feasible. It's not feasible to maintain something forever.
It's a challenge for small.
It is. It is. I agree. I do. I agree.
For our taxpayers.
I agree.
I mean, we just let us say,
Motorola was great to us.
Right.
Just, it got to where we couldn't afford it.
I get
So
it.
we went out and solicited other bids, and we found a comparable solution that was a third of the price.
It's not for everybody. I'm not arguing that fact. It's not for everybody. But the capacity and the capability, not maybe so much from a fire perspective, from a law enforcement perspective, is critical on where it can take it. There's a lot of things that, yeah, I may not want it now, but what if I want it 3 years down the road? Well, guess what? I can start all over again. So I think you have to look at the now and you got to look at the future.
I mean, when we
You
bought
can't
this system,
focus on the now.
we bought this system thinking, hey, we want it to last the next 20 years and meet the upgrades that come in the next 20 years. Now, is it going to do that? I don't know, you know. But that was our goal, is to buy a system that could be upgraded as needed, when needed, and not have to go back and buy all new radios, all new equipment, things of that nature. Because we know things are going to change. I mean, radios, the use of radios is going to get more and more advanced, and we can, hopefully we've positioned ourselves for that. But it's never going to be the same price. We know that, guys. Motorola's going to be the most expensive game in town, but they are the industry standard. They have been for years, and there's a reason for that. And I'm not dissing anybody's product.
Well, I could drive a Mercedes for work, but I don't. I drive a Ford pickup.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it's a nice one, Adam.
we got to be realistic on money. I
Well-
mean, that's all we talk about. It's money,
Oh,
money,
I-
money. But
I agree with that.
you know,
Question for the,
Robert?
sorry. You said a while ago that the repeaters would be used, said some letters, what would that be? If we went and paid, you said we'd still use our repeaters for what? Yeah, some of the base stations that you currently have can be reused to, can be repurposed at those sites to facilitate interoperability. They can be used for 700 megahertz interoperability. They can be put on the air as a conventional channel.
But to do that, Robert, don't we have to have tower space and stuff of that nature?
So the sites that you put in were capable of going up to 6 channels.
We heard that today, yeah.
What's that?
We heard that today.
Yeah, right. So, and they currently only have 3 channels at the site. So even if you upgraded to have 5 trunking channels, you would still have a slot available for 1 additional repeater. So you could reuse some of your base stations to act as a interoperability channel or repeater. So you could use them like as a, like you were talking about, you could use them as a
Ground channel.
fire ground channel or some kind of tactical channel.
But they're going to consume paths when you do that, are they not?
No, this is conventional only, so they're not even part of the trunking system.
So they'd be basically reserved.
Yes, sir. Or they could be used as a fire ground channel that would be repeated instead of a simplex or radio to radio. They would go through a repeater. So,
What's the disadvantages to our sites when we do this? What's the disadvantages to our sites if we do this? In other words, we start swapping out components. One, this may be a Robert question, but are we going to have to do software changes to our Motorola radios, Robert, to accommodate Tate?
You'll have to phase 2 upgrade everything, regardless of what you spend with him, you still have to phase 2 upgrade all your radios.
Does he have to buy some software from you guys or something to make that happen?
Yeah, it's gonna have to come from Motorola.
So we got 165 radios out there that's going to have to be.
Phase 2 upgrades minimum, right, minimum to be on the gaming system, so you'll have to, it's like Kevin said, like the city manager said, if you come in on that system phase 2, you're slapping in with basically 2 slots. They're phase 2, you're hitting them both of them.
We've already determined we got to phase 2, right?
Yeah, I think that's a given, no matter which way you go, you're gonna have
It
to do
doesn't matter
that.
if you stay with Motorola or if you go to Tank, you still gotta upgrade everything.
You gotta upgrade every car.
So that's really kind of a moot point. You can consider that.
It depends on if the quality of one radio is better than the other, why do I want to reduce its capabilities? Why do I want to back up?
So, okay, let me throw this out there. Cook County EMS, Lindsay Fire, all these volunteer fire departments, say we get them up to 700, for instance. I don't see how they need all this stuff that is really only gonna be utilized potentially utilized for law enforcement down the road. So if they want to use, or if it makes sense monetarily to buy tape radios compared to what, half the price of a Motorola, and we're not going to use these other systems that are on there, why not save some money there?
Well, that's already been happening, like Valley View Fire, or not Valley View Fire, sorry, Valley View PD uses tape radios on our system.
I mean, the Tates fit on our system now. They walk in. And for those that are satisfied with the Tate product and radios, buy them. I mean,
I'm talking for, y'all are gonna have to purchase radios at some point. If it's on if you're purchasing them for a department that will never need this other stuff, would y'all not consider spending a little bit less and putting on a tech radio person?
oh, that's absolutely an option. I mean, it'd be, if you're telling me EMS doesn't need the features they got, we put them in Tate radios for half the price. But now when you come back 3 years down the road and you say, hey, there's this neat feature out here we want, they say, well, that radio won't work. What do you want me to do?
What I'm telling you is that he just sat here and said that these features are law enforcement features.
It's
a lot.
from an infrastructure standpoint. So if you kept the infrastructure standpoint, kept the core interface, the backbone, B25 is B25. So it doesn't matter if I have a tape core and I've got Motorola radios roaming around in or Harris or Kenwood. Subscribers, portables, and those are going to work. It's B25. It has to be compliant. Same thing with Motorola core. There's tape radios on Cooke County core today. Motorola radios on Cooke County. It has to be compliant. But you do get into the only caveat to that, like you say, if you don't need it, why buy a radio that's got the capability? Buy what you need. Whether that's $1,000 or $4,000, right? Just buy what you need. So you definitely have that option. But you'll get into features with different cores and different manufacturers, and it's all of them out there. So you have a standard feature set that everybody has to meet, right? Which is B25. You got to meet all these requirements. There's a much larger list of above and beyond B25 things that Tate can do, we can do, Harris can do. Everybody's got their own caveat. It's why do you come to me over them, or why do you come to him over them, right? So everybody's always going to have it regardless of what they call. But from a subscriber perspective, you're right. People ought to be able to bring to the table whatever radio they want to bring. It's a Tate or a roller or what. If the sheriff wants to be able to stay and have Smart Connect, you can stay with APX and use it over Wi-Fi, or you can go to LTE if he doesn't care about that. You can go to Western Radio that doesn't have it.
Did you and I have some conversation about y'all have situations where not only do y'all page out some EMS, you open the doors, the bay doors and stuff of that nature through 700?
We're using APX consolettes for like Denison and Sherman and Bryan County. We got lots of counties where we're using a base station with a smart card. And on the back of that smart card, it gives us aux hose. So just for like Denison now, when they get rained down at station 1, 2, or 3 for a fire, we're turning on red LEDs inside the station. We're opening the bay doors. We're turning on exhaust fans for the apparatuses. So we don't do the electrical work. Obviously, I'm not an electrician, but we give them the triggers to be able to activate those points to do. Sherman does it with lighting right now for today with their system they're doing using the same thing. So there's all, and that's nothing proprietary to Motorola. You can pull that off almost with any product. We just do it within one conjoined unit that's got custom programming aux hose. But so the difference when you're talking about paging, and I just want to clarify that because I think you got a little confused last time. There's two-tone paging, right? Which is analog, which we send today over in an analog UHF system. We can also take that two-tone paging voice and send it over a P25 system. And we can call it, it's digital all day long, and it is digital going over P25. But it's just two-tone analog voice that's been around for 45 years. Same thing that's been around forever. And there's digital paging. Digital paging, whether you do it on 700, you do it on VHF, you do it on UHF, is not two-tone. It's the ability to send call alert, whether it's an individual call or a group call. It's a data packet. It's inaudible. You don't even hear it. So if she can send it from dispatch to station 1, and it takes that long to go out. Not only does it take that long to go out, she gets an acknowledgement back. Today she doesn't get that. She pages station 1. She doesn't know station 1 didn't get the page until she's paging them again and calling and saying, hey, why aren't y'all going on that run? You're doing digital paging call alert, selective call. The base station hears that. It says, hey, that's me. I'm going to send an acknowledgement back. She gets a green check mark. She knows it went on. Didn't tell her they're in the station, right? Didn't tell her they were paying attention. Didn't tell her they were on a run, but she knows that alerting system went on. But it's inaudible. You don't hear it because it's P25, it's integrated voice and data. Now, can you put an alert tone behind it? Are they going to want an alert tone behind it? Probably. So the base station itself is going to go emit 3 beeps typically on a call alert. So they're going to get the beep, beep, beep. It's going to say call received. If they were using light triggers or door triggers, all that's going to come on. But it's not a lot of pre-alert. So a lot of times, like in Denison, because the page is inaudible, we're sending an analog two-tone page behind that digital page, just so they can say, oh, that's station 1's tones, that's station 3's tones. So fire and EMS are tone guys. You're never going to get them away from some type of audible tone. I would love to, but it will never happen.
So with what we currently have, like say at station 1, station 2, station 3, with the 700 system, you page through that, is it going to
Right now,
our electron or our alert stuff? So what's it going to take at that point to get it to where it does? Because I'm going to tell you right now that we're going to have to keep something.
Yeah. You could use a mobile radio. You could do it off a mobile radio if you wanted to do lights and alarms and triggers and stuff like that. You could use constellations. It just depends on what you wanted today. You could even use that as redundant and leave your electrons like they are. But I mean, you're going to want to move your speakers and all that over, right? Because you're going to want your audio distribution. So whatever other triggers you're doing, so yes, it can definitely be done.
Then we have,
on
we have
700.
the light comes on, and then we have the louder audio.
Which is just triggers. And that's what the Electron's doing today. It's just, y'all probably have a relays that's normally open and it's looking for a closure or vice versa. It's not rocket science to it, but it is.
You know.
Basically. Sure, yeah.
But you got a
Very
solution
open
for that,
and-
but that doesn't get the VFDs third tone, if you do it. But you have a solution for the station, but that doesn't let the volunteer fire departments get third
No,
tone.
that doesn't affect, this is just talking about, the question asked was to EMS. Yeah, that's a different story when you go volunteer fire, right? Now, in Bryan County, we have very few pager users in Bryan County. When they went P25 about 9 months ago, they're either using e-dispatch, carrying a portable that goes off on call alert for a group for that department. They don't want to buy both. They're small departments. They ain't got the money to give everybody a handheld and a pager. You get one or the other, but you're not going to get both. So most of them opt not buy pagers. And if they're on duty, they're using their radio pagers and a call alert mode. If they're off duty, then they're using e-dispatch or active 911.
I would argue to say that would not be a okay function.
No.
And I want to, with that being said, and it has nothing to do with dispatch or anything, it's just cell phones and the way that stuff works. It's the beginning of Commissioner's Court this morning, there was 2 tones that happened. The first one, I got active 911 about like that, and I have 0 information on what, other than the address on what that call was. The second one, I've got information. It went off roughly 4 to 5 minutes after the tone, the audible tone. So it's just, that's not.
Those are good for redundancy, never
They're
primary.
Well,
Yeah.
but that's kind of what you're saying, they're going to is.
A lot of departments are stepping out to do that, but they're doing it on e-dispatch, which is radio activated. So e-dispatch activates off the radio signal,
It's still
unlike
required
active
you to have phone
911.
signal.
Mhm.
It still requires you to have phone signal.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
don't have phone service,
I mean,
just
that's
like
just-
you don't have radio service.
We have enough dead spaces in this county, that that's not going to be functional.
We're gonna have to figure out an organized way to put all this together and figure out how we're gonna move forward, and it'll probably be a little bit during budgeting. What do you think, Judge?
I would think so. I think we're gonna have to get together again soon and get the right people together again. And, there's got to be a solution, and it needs to come pretty quick, or at least get started to a solution. I don't know that we'll fix everything just right away, but if we can get started towards a solution, I think that would be something to think about. One thing to think about might be to get on Gainesville system. That's something that can be done pretty soon, I guess. I don't know.
That system doesn't work for us, Judge, unless we invest $750,000.
Okay, but once again,
If you don't mind, I don't care where we go, I just want something that works. But you're saying that the system doesn't work unless we invest $750,000. However, we don't have an apples to apples comparison with Motorola to get to that point either. And I understand it won't be apples to apples, but it'll be, we're talking about same number of talk pads and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's not even necessarily a fair thing to say. I don't feel like, because if they come back with a quote that's the same or higher, I mean, what's the difference?
Judge, at the end of the Carpenter workshop, might I ask this for consideration? There's been so many different factors, whether you go phase 1, phase 2, adding computers. Maybe the court determines this is what we'd like to look at and get as close to apples as you can get. And get a quote from each vendor and say, hey, this is what we're looking at. And that way you're looking at a dollar here, a dollar monetary amount. I mean, they can't provide right now, we can keep. So y'all know what you're talking about, really, without, and so when you start giving them all the different criteria, that's tough, because there's a lot of different things involved.
that's right. So, and like I said, to me, it's imperative that we start doing something right away, rather than just letting things just go. I don't think that we're headed in the right direction at all just by letting things go. I think if we don't do anything because it costs money, that's also a problem too. Because we're talking about protecting the very people that give us that money. All right? So, and there are certain things that the public will appreciate if we spend their money. If it's their protection, if it's something they see is needed, then the public's not going to, it's not going to be a huge outcry and problem if we spend tax money doing something that's truly serving the people of this county. So I can't tell you when we're going to get back to you, but I just want it to be soon, okay? We'll work that out internally, and if you would, just stay in touch with me if you don't mind, or any of us as far as that goes. Just keep us advised on what avenues we can take here. I won't say paths, because that's something entirely different, as we've learned today, but we need to get going on something soon.
Short of doing official RFPs, and scopes of work, I think both you vendors have heard what we're looking for is a 8-channel capacity issue. So both of you are working on the same thing. I mean, we're
So
still...
you're gonna come back with an official ask of what you're looking for?
Well, my concern is this group's not gonna be able to write the scope of work. So we're doing a little rock management, okay? Go get me a rock. You're gonna bring it to me. I really wanted a white rock, you know. So it's pretty broad at this point, but you've heard the comparisons. You know, it's 4 versus 6 versus 8, and you could go with all 3 options. You know, and if you got, I'm sorry.
What we're going to do is a capacity analysis. We're going to take a month's worth of PTTs and analyze that and figure out what you really need right now and future-proof. What are you going to need based on your population growth estimates? What are you going to need in the future? All right, and we'll do an estimate based on that.
Okay.
And not give you something that you don't need, something that's going to cost more money. We don't want to do that.
Sure, but not only in the future, as we saw a month ago, what we need right now that will take us into the future.
Correct. And honestly, that was something that when you start patching talk groups together, that's what happens. That's why we don't do that.
Right.
If we do one out of necessity, okay, doing 2, you just kill your system. There is no more talking, and there's nothing we can do to prevent that from happening because that's a feature that's needed. Right, when you have to patch, it's needed. But, you know, that's...
But if we'd have had more talk paths, would it have helped us?
Absolutely.
If you had more talk paths, yes, it would have helped you.
So right now we have 2 departments running that.
But back to, that's a training thing.
Right, I agree.
You don't ever want to patch one.
I agree. So right now we have 2 departments. We're going to 3 departments if we go with fire. So in your analysis, make sure that you got that in there so we know.
And
Does that make sense?
Include that in your capacity.
Let me add to that. We have got to go to fire. We've got to go to fire, EMS, and SO, and they've got to work together. Because once again, this is, we're talking about the people that put us here, okay? And we're not going to favor one department over the other. They all have a very definite role in anything that happens.
In your analysis, can you go back to May and analyze May as well? Because that's when we had the tornado. That's the night that everything got jammed up.
Right. I think we'll definitely ask to pull that data.
That's a tough one, like I said, because when they patched it, I don't know what that does for the accuracy of your study.
That's the thing I'm questioning in the back of my head. If they're not doing the actual PT I'm not sure if we're going to be able to capture disease.
I understand.
But I think personally, I'd like to see both parties, phase 2. We know we want to do phase 2, okay? Then 4, 6, and 8 channels. Because we can provide 4 now, 2 next year, and 2 the year after, would be my thinking. Or we
The goal
can,
is to get everybody on 7,800 once everybody's there patching. It's going to be about rarely used, right, if you're all on one system.
Very
With the exception of an interoperability, right? Monte maybe doesn't have 7,800, maybe you maintain your own. It's smart that you have some VHF infrastructure up.
the county's got to have
Well, you have to have
VHF.
it.
I don't think you want to take that down.
No, I don't think
I
so.
don't think you want to take that.
And you don't want to take
I don't
that.
think you would ever want to take it down, because you gotta be interoperable. Somebody comes with a pursuit down southbound I-35, you can't just say, well, they don't have 7,800, I'll get the dog.
Yeah.
Or you guys go to
It has to
Grayson
be some
County.
interoperability.
If fire goes to Grayson County, Grayson County
Our deployments
won't be a
and
check.
stuff, they come and plug in our radios. They might not be on 700. So you
Right.
gotta have that
Yeah.
Right.
VHF, UHF, whatever it is.
A lot of the VFDs all have VHF.
VHF. And we work on V fires, but in the main scheme of it, you're on a main channel on the deployments. A lot of it's going to these now. You got FirstNet, they're hooking us into that, but not everybody's got that yet. We're still in the works. So that's
Goes
why-
back, you got to have phone service though, right?
Huh?
You got to have phone service, pre-FirstNet.
Well, they bring, if it's big like this deal, they run a tower in for that.
Oh, you're saying somebody else's capacity, not ours.
FirstNet or AT&T FirstNet would run a tower in. Or some counties own their own FirstNet tower.
Or a
They
big
just
bus.
Deploy it, well, yeah.
And by all means, if you start taking a look at what we need, don't go just by what we have said. Take in this guy right out here on the street, and this guy that lives down in Valley View, and this guy that lives out in Dura. What would you like for your county to do for you? And, you know, they deserve what we can do for them, and not what we think they ought to have necessarily.
But the reason for the 4, 6, and 8 is what we'll be able to fund. So we'll have some options. Because, I mean, this court may think we're fixing to bite this whole thing. I personally don't. You know, we're looking at $400,000 in pager requests, a minimum of $750,000 to upgrade radio systems. That's just to either join Gainesville or for us to upgrade ours. About $423,000 in radios. That's about $2.5 million we rattled off. And, you know, our state legislators say we can have a 3.5% increase.
You might ask those people on the street out there if they're worried about how much it costs.
Oh, trust me, Judge, in the real world, they are.
What
How
we're
about let's
talking
get some
about.
numbers together and get them back to us?
Yeah.
We're not gaining anything here.
Yeah. Now, she's wanting to take a month though and do a study, right? You said take a month to do your study?
A month's worth of data.
Oh, but you,
But it's going to take us a couple of weeks to get it in. We have a coverage design team that also does capacity analysis. We want, they're the experts, so I'd rather give it to them and let them run it and let us know.
and that'll be at no charge.
Robert, can you come back in a couple of weeks?
Yes, sir.
Can y'all make it in a couple of weeks, or 2 or 3 weeks, or a month?
I'd like to say 3 weeks, just to.
3 weeks?
Then you're looking at a month unless you do special court.
Okay.
Go back for some call.
Can some of y'all be here maybe?
We'll be there.
Appreciate it. Do what?
So we've got court again on the 29th.
Is that 3 weeks? It don't-
Be 3
It
weeks.
should be 2 weeks between courts, right? All right, well, the 20, see, we don't, why do we have it on the 29th? Did you say there's a special something for bid opening?
I think so, yes. So we have court, yeah, we skipped the 15th, and then we have next 2 weeks again.
29th, going once? Yeah, that's 3. Because
That's a couple months.
3 weeks from now.
3 weeks. And then we have actual court on the 11th of August. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking on Sunday. Yeah, but she needs, so 29th's not, that doesn't get you there for your studies?
You can try for the 29th, but we also have to do the data rules, so I'm not sure how long it's going to take.
You say the 29th is a court, man?
Yes.
Okay, that'd be a good time, when that's 3 weeks.
Well, she's saying she can't get the data collected by then, Judge.
You can't do it by then?
Well,
All the stars align, I can do it by then.
Yeah, but if they
I'm
don't,
dependent on other people, we gotta pull the data from the system too, so.
Shoot for August 12th.
8/12,
August 12th.
we do that one.
Y'all gonna be back in school and all that fun stuff?
I'll be down for that meeting.
Robert, at work,
yes, sir.
August 12th?
Yes, sir.
We don't want to leave you out.
Thank you.
August 12th for y'all? Yeah.
Sheriff?
Sheriff, can you make it? All right.
Brittany, are you available?
Pam, are you available? Pam, are you available? Okay, thank you. All right then, item number 19 was a discussion regarding Cooke County radio and pager communication systems. No action.
Thanks, Chiefs.
Other than, we are tentatively looking at, and let's just go ahead and say that we're gonna do it again, this again on August 12th.
That's a regular court date, so
we won't
it
have
will
to
start
get
at
back
10.
and forth with people. That's a regular court date, so just check the agenda, and if it's on the agenda, it's an official. All right, item number 20.
Move to adjourn. Make a motion.
Second.
Commissioner Hart moves to adjourn, second Commissioner Snubs. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There are none, passes 5-0. At 12:59, yes.